Oh, okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. Officially 8:30 p.m. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, welcome home. You know, our group posts our talks on YouTube, so it's important. I'm going to give a little directive to YouTube because, as much as it's pretty cool to listen to these talks and have them be able to have access to them around the world, it's nothing like being here in person. And there's another really important tidbit of information that $1 in the basket in 1970 is equivalent to like $8.19 in 2024. That has nothing to do with you guys. But anyway, our group does a lot of service here. We give away a lot of big books. We've given away over 600 big books in the last 2 years of treatment centers. We have ongoing H&I commitments. If you'd like to get involved, see us after the meeting. We love guys that like to do that. Now it's time for the world's greatest chairperson to come up here all the way from Nicaragua. Let's welcome Nick.
Good evening, my name is Nick, I'm an alcoholic, and welcome home. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting. It meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. The food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m., followed by our speaker at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from the message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first-name basis? Yes, sir.
Justin from Alcoholics.
Hey, Justin, welcome. Welcome.
Stephen, I'm recovered alcoholic.
Steve, welcome. Yes, sir.
I'm Tom, I'm an alcoholic.
Yo, Tom, welcome.
I'm Shane, I'm an alcoholic.
Shane, welcome.
Hi, Rhonda, alcoholic.
Hi, Rhonda, welcome. Yes, sir.
My name's Ed, I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome. Yes.
Hi, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, welcome. Okay, and welcome to everyone. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Excellent. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Yes, sir.
My name's David, I'm an alcoholic.
Yo, Dave.
Friday night at 8:30 is a burning tires meeting in Lake Toby. The fire starts at 7. Burning burgers, donuts, we got something to grill coming. It's a good time. Fellowship.
Thank you. Okay. Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street in Doylestown. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on a table marked Big Book and CD Donations. And all CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA, and our Facebook group, subscribe and share. And you can find our speakers there, join our Facebook group, and keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. And now with that, I have Brian to come up and read the Just for Today Prayer of Recovery.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian, and I'm an alcoholic. This is Just for Today, a prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, Will is going to come up here. Will is going to read our AA preamble.
Hi, I'm Will and I'm an alcoholic. Alcohol Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now I have JJ to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
My name's JJ, I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of recovery. First, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Second, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Third, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Fourth, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6th, we are entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Now Nick's going to come back up here and introduce our speaker.
Okay. The 7th tradition, every AA group ought to be fully self-supported, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees. We do have expenses, and this group provides many services, and your donations cover food, rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. We also have a Venmo. If you don't have cash, come see me after the meeting. I have a Venmo for the group. There's absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and try to limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, to introduce our speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Tonight we have Chris B. from the 4A2 Social Hall, Pennsauken, New Jersey.
Hi, everybody. Chris Brennan, recovered alcoholic. Great to be back in downtown Doylestown. Been a while. How long's that Big Book study been there, Ron? At Salem Church feels like 10 years ago, more? 15 years. The older you get, you just don't even know. It could be yesterday, it could be 20 years ago. It all blends together. My sobriety date is 3/3/94, so I just, I would say celebrated, but there's 2 dates I don't get excited about anymore, and ironically, I didn't pick either of them, my birthday or my sobriety date. So I just don't celebrate them after the years. My sponsor hammered into me years ago, if you want to celebrate your anniversary, bring a new person to the meeting with you and sit in the back and shut up. I don't think you can do it. Right? So he was always trying to push me into some kind of force-fed humility for a reason. I didn't understand it back then, but I do now. I am not from Pennsauken, New Jersey. I do live in that area for the last 17 years or so. I am Southwest Philadelphia, born and raised, 57th and Elmwood, if anybody knows where that is. West Catholic High School for boys, right? And come from a good family. 2 older sisters, if they ever listen to this, I did say older, right? And they don't seem to have this problem. I don't know that we ever really technically had them tested or anything, but they seem okay. They have lives and raise kids and 2.5 kids in a Volvo or whatever and picket fence, and then there's me. Pride of the family at one point, big-time stockbroker. Just by accident. I didn't go to school for it or anything. I just fell into it out of high school and found out I had a knack for having people scream at me and not going crazy and be able to relay that to somebody else. There's not a lot big calling for it out there in the real world, but for a lot of years, it was the best business ever. It was a breeding ground, an academy of every addiction, dysfunction you could imagine. And they paid you for it. So my mother almost never drank. Come from little row house, Philadelphia. In the 70s, was pretty racially tough time back then, as you know, right? And there was a lot of fighting. It was just normal to me. We grew out of it. I have no regrets. I mean, to me, I thought we were rich. My dad had a good job. My dad was my hero, that greatest generation, World War II, Marine. In 1941, if you're under 40, Google what happened in 1940 or 41, and he went off to war, right? And was always my hero. 42 years shift work at a oil refinery in South Philadelphia, Arco Oil Refinery. I come from oil money. A lot of people don't know that. And every man I ever knew in my life worked at the Arco Oil Refinery. All my uncles, my grandfather, everybody. And I just assumed when I got old enough, I guess that's how it works, I'll go there. And as it turns out, I wasn't really paying attention. Which is a theme in my life a lot. I don't really pay attention a lot to much stuff, especially anything that's good for me. And at the end of the 70s, when I got out of high school, the economy was bad and they weren't hiring. So I was kind of like stuck with, what do I do? Nobody was really going into the service at that time. So do I want to go to school? I don't think so. That sounds like a lot. And I got to get a job, right? And I accidentally, a friend of mine told me, this girl I know, she said she had just gotten a job at the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. And they're hiring anybody, which kind of seemed to fit me. And I went down in hold your ears, it's 1979, in a shirt, and they put a clip-on tie on me, if anybody knows what that is. And I actually started, like when you went down, I didn't know what I was doing. They're like, no, you're starting today. That's the way it was back then. And I got a job as a ticket runner. Just, here, take this and give it to him. I thought I can do that. What's all this talk about, all this complicated numbers and all this? I got this, right? And before that, growing up in Southwest Philly, I wish I could tell you something about my family or maybe the atmosphere, the water down there. Could have been the water. But nothing really ties in with alcoholism. I believe if you're an alcoholic, three things kind of have to happen. One is you got to inherit it. I think I inherited it from my dad. Sorry, Dad, rest in peace. He seemed to have it, a version of it. Years later, when I really learned the big book, he was more the heavy drinker type, but you get the point. He was not a stranger to drinking, but he never took it to the extremes I did or sold his soul for it or anything like that. And he worked every day of his life, and he raised us. And like I said, I thought we were rich. We had everything in my mind. And my mother didn't drink. My sisters were pretty good kids. And like I said, all of a sudden I come along. I was a shy kid looking back on it. I try to look at things. Does anything really have to do with alcoholism as I understand it today? I don't know if I ever said this in public. I'm a little vertically challenged. I would have liked to have been a little taller, right? If things were, then again, if I was a little, right? But funny thing is, shy, nervous kid. I don't know. My name's Brennan. I always had to sit in front, Catholic school. Maybe that's why I'm a little weird. Or maybe because I wanted to be bigger, right? But I'll tell you what. Sometime around 1976, in a playground, 57th and Grays, I drank something called Tequila Sunrise. It was tequila mixed with some nasty orange drink, and boom, right? I wasn't 5'8" anymore. I was 6'4", 240, middle linebacker. I played 3 or 4 different sports. Right? Ran the Boston Marathon backwards. I didn't know it didn't do that for other people. And I compared my drinking, and later on some other use, my whole life to people who weren't like me. And I know that clearly today. And like I think Ronnie mentioned, I don't necessarily go around pushing that on people and trying to get, I don't have a bullhorn like repent sinners, you're all going to die at the family barbecue or anything, but everybody knows I'm sober. Like I said, I just celebrated 30 years, and I love it. I would not trade it. I should be dead or in jail 100 times over, and I get to live free and do this. Are you kidding me? You're going to trade in that deal, right? No way, right? I can't complain, right? I had to learn not to keep track anymore whether life's fair or not. Because if life was fair, my friends, I wouldn't be here. If I got what I deserved, I'd be locked away, or I would have been out of this game long ago. And yet I get to live. Why? I don't know. I don't question it. Maybe some say God has a plan. I don't know why he picked me. I'm sure it was much more qualified. But for whatever reason, right, he used this bozo from Southwest Philly. And I believe that today, that it was all for a reason. Through AA, through the big book, I understand exactly what happened to me. I'm not baffled anymore. I know why it happened, when it happened, and I know what to do about it. And I know how to arrest it, and one day at a time, as they say, practice the principles as we teach others, and that recipe has not failed me. And I don't think it'll fail you. And I've been doing some version of that for a little over 30 years now. You would think that would get monotonous or boring. Are you kidding me? I'm getting worse over time, right? I get excited. I'm weird, man. I open that big book and I get excited. Like, right? Some people say it's, I don't know, divinely inspired or something like that. I can't explain it to you. I've been doing this for a long time. Whether it's two people, sometimes years ago it was me and two women from the neighborhood. That I don't even know if they were in AA, and or 500 people. Been blessed, got lucky over the years to speak in front of a lot of people, right? You know, if you're new, the second worst thing to give an alcoholic, microphone, right? So yeah, and I drank something and I was off, and I didn't know it was doing something for me. It was filling a hole, a void. Some call it the hole in the soul. Been reading up on Carl Jung, kind of the second opinion. The Doctor's Opinion by Silkworth. There's also a second opinion in the book by Carl Jung that's really cool too, and he really gets deep into the mental part, and he really just seems to understand people like us and explains it better than we ever could. He's considered an honorary founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. Silkworth is credited with the solution, and Jung with the Silkworth's credited the problem, and Jung with the solution. So these are important people, and these are things, historical stuff. My sponsor was big on getting to learn the history. I didn't want to do it. I don't want to do a lot of things. I don't think it wasn't presented as optional, right? He said, Chris, I'll make a deal with you. You like to talk. You're pretty full of yourself. He said, according to you, you probably could have, if your life had, a couple breaks, you probably could have went pro 3 or 4 different sports. You could have been a contender. But as it turns out, you're 33 years old, and you live in your mom and dad's basement? You got any money to speak of? You even got a job? Do you have a driver's license? No. Big shot on Wall Street, not anymore. You of everybody and their mother money, I'm taking it? Yes. Right? And he said, I'm not going to argue with you about God. I would expect you to be mad at God at this point. Don't worry about it. God's used to it. We'll go through these steps and see what happens. And if you want my kind of help, I'll give you that. He was very clear. If not, get another sponsor. If you want some hand-holding or, kind of fellowship-based stuff, it's available to you. We all know that, right? Doesn't make you bad people, but you're never going to agree with the philosophy that I believe in with AA when it comes to the 12 steps and all that. It's going to be like night and day. It's almost similar to going to church, and I love the singing, but that book, I'm like, right? Very similar in here, right? We love the meetings, but really? The steps? Is that all you ever want to talk about? Right? I remember years ago having this back and forth with the guys I got sober with. They would say something like, because they knew I was into the big book at an abnormally deep level at a young age. It's just the way I was taught. And they're like, try calling the big book at 3 o'clock in the morning when you feel like drinking. And I would say, well, maybe if you understood the big book, you wouldn't feel like drinking at 3 o'clock in the morning. Woo! Right? And we still do that. We did that for years, right? And some of those guys saved my life. Thank God I got sober at the Stepping Stones. A friend of mine, Bobby, over there, right? My heart, there was no step work going on. It was old school, 3 meetings a day clubhouse. Nobody really understood the steps. I see that clearly today, right? The book can be a little confusing. It's a textbook. It's kind of hard to understand it and figure it out. The first guys I ever heard really talk about it were Joe and Charlie. Everybody's familiar with them, the 2 guys from Arkansas that went around the country in the mid-90s. My sobriety date's 94, right? I think I seen them in 1995 in a hotel in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I have a big book signed by them. It's like seeing the Rolling Stones, man. Like, that's how weird I got. Like, I went from like following musical acts to the best AA speakers in the world. Sandy Beach, Bob D, those guys, Peter. And whenever they were in town somewhere, man, it was like, right? And it's still going on today. This is a version of that, right? If you're new, the miracle of technology, I call it proper use of technology. We all know you can use technology for a lot of bad things. And by the way, in a side note, that career on Wall Street, once technology came along in the mid-90s, we were dinosaurs and they closed all the exchanges. So you're looking at a guy who is on the wrong end of the technology curve. But don't worry about it. I'm doing good in therapy. My therapist says I'm doing I'm not that angry, right? I have a lot of guys like in their 50s that had to reinvent themselves. It ain't that easy, right? But they shut it down like that. I knew it. I mean, I've seen it coming for a number of years. I can't lie. But I'm lazy. I didn't do anything about it. Sat there going into the exchange, going into my office, putting my stuff down and going to the gym, going for a run, like I'm a billionaire, just like, it was crazy. But we seen it coming, we still got run over by it. And, but I got AA. I mean, it's the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, hands down. I got kicked out of there the first time. The first thing that ever happened to me as a result of drinking, although I would have passed a lie detector test back then, I started down there in 79? Early 80s sometime. I had a title. I was assistant vice president. Sounds good. It was just, they didn't want to pay any more money. I had my name in the paper, Goldman Sachs, you heard of them? At 23 years old, big hotshot from Philadelphia. And I got a phone call that stopped me in my tracks. Chris, you no longer work for us. Get off the trading floor immediately. You know, them bright colored trading jackets that people wear. Leave your jacket there and get off the floor. And I was pissed, but I vaguely sensed. And the funny thing, nobody ever asked me the question until years later in AA in step 4. My sponsor said, well, what did you do? I was like, well, since you ask, I technically did something illegal. You know, I put some trades in an account I really shouldn't have. He's like, you're an idiot. If you didn't do that, this would have never happened. And that was a theme all throughout my life in step 4, right? All this stuff, right? From me living on self. As it turns out, I'm just plugged into the wrong power source. Was for years. There's only 2. It's not complicated. There's the higher power and self, right? Self isn't bad. Self is just what you know, what you can do on your own power. Don't feel bad. Most of the free world's on that plan, and they don't even know it. But then there's the spiritual plan, the higher power, right? Who takes that? Who plugs into that voluntarily? The only people I know, especially through AA, is people that are beaten into it. Bill Wilson says alcohol was a great persuader, and right, it brought us into a, made me reasonable about the existence of a higher power and how important that is in recovery? Or can I just go to meetings and stay sober? And like a lot of guys are doing that. And my sponsor was like, no. Because he knew me and I don't know, he just seemed to read right through me and he could just, I don't know how he knew that. He was psychic, whatever, but he knew it, right? And he said, if you want my help, we're going to get this book and whatever's in there, if it's in there, I won't ask you to do anything I haven't done. And if it's in there, we're going to do it. And if it's not in there, you don't have to do it. Like a dope, I went for that plan. And funny thing is, when I got out of rehab in 1994, he coincidentally got sick. He worked at the rehab I was in Northeast Philadelphia, a place called Riverside House, right? My heart will always be there. It's not there anymore. It was like a little, looked like the Addams family house on the river at Grand Avenue. And trust me, it was not fancy. There was no flat screen. There was no TVs, no pool, no gym, anything. It was just bare bones, right? And my first job was cleaning the visitors' bathroom. It's like, do you know who I am? Like, I have people do that for me, right? And it was, you talk about humility, right? Force feeding of humility. And I've never looked back. And a life of service, right? And I got out of there, and my sponsor, who've had the same sponsor for 30 years, he coincidentally got sick. I didn't know it, and he didn't know he was sick. And I didn't see him at the meetings for the first 8 months or so. So I went to 3 meetings a day, stepping stones, 2 buses each way. I would never ask anybody for a ride. I'm too proud. And 9 o'clock every morning, noon, and 8:30 at night. That's why it's funny, Ronnie said 8:30 at night the meeting was. I'm like, I ain't been up that late in years. I don't, what the hell is 8:30? What's wrong with you people? Anyway, if I nod off, just throw something at me. And I didn't see him for 8 months, and I was good, but I was getting a little testy. I made all the mistakes they warn you against. I moved in with somebody at about 10 months sober. I thought, well, you know, feeling better now. I think it's time to date, right? And people with half a brain just laughed at that. My sponsor, I think, eventually said, well, let's look at this logically, Chris. You're what, 34 years old now? Yeah. You live in your mom and dad's basement still, right, basically? And maybe you moved upstairs, I don't know, but not too far. You got like a career, a job to speak of, a real job? He knew I worked for a buddy of mine's landscaping business. He said, you don't even work when it rains. That's like not really, I know you got a good tan and you feel good, but that's not really a career, Mr. Wall Street, right? And he said, what do you have? You don't have a car. What do you have to offer another human? And 2 months later, we moved in together. And I know we say that and you laugh, but I do tell you, trust me, I did not see it coming, and it was not good. I don't know how I lived through it. And hopefully all amends have been made with that, and you know, what I was many years ago. But it blindsided me. I never felt those type of things because I drank and drugged my whole life. I don't feel anything. I thought I was docile. So I was just laid back. As it turns out, without drugs, it's just funny. And I couldn't see it coming. I made all the mistakes, but kept going to the clubhouse. About right around, I don't know what time, but right around a year sober, same guy, Bobby, let's sit down where I got to really do this 4th and 5th step with you. And he just laughed. He's like, yeah, I've been kind of waiting for you to bring that up again. And he lived over by the Art Museum in Philadelphia. And I'm not kidding you. I don't know if this is legal or not, but we went through steps 4 and got started with 9 in like a couple weeks. We say, I put all this work into it. This had 30 years, like how many years of drinking and drugging and all this, and in 2 weeks, and I'm working hard? I don't care what I've done all these years. Oh, you go to meetings, you help people. Do I look like I'm sweating? I'm not not working hard, right? This isn't work. You talk about a deal, right? I am the big winner. I'm laughing all the way to the spiritual bank, and I couldn't even see it, right? And man, don't miss that. Get through the steps. Get somebody that's not afraid of the steps to take you through them. You say, you're exaggerating, Chris, come on. Nobody's afraid of the steps. Well, they act like it. I believe it's just ignorance of the literature. If you don't study the literature, you'll never agree with the philosophy of Bill and Bob. Because look at their stories, they all did it immediately. Just take one historical date, June 10th. Everybody goes, oh no, AA's anniversary. Well, it's Dr. Bob's anniversary, actually, because you needed 2 A's to make AA, apparently, right? But they met on May 10th. But Bob was balking on the idea of making amends. And he went to a medical convention in Atlantic City that he went to every year. And he got loaded. On June 9th, they sent him home on a train. And he woke up June 10th, and he announced to the House, Bill being there, that he was going to go through with all of it. And they're looking at him like he's crazy. What are you talking about? They thought he was going out drinking, if you don't know the story. And he leaves the house all day, all night, and comes home late that night on fire, never drank again. That's our anniversary. It's literally the anniversary of the founder of AA making all his amends in one day, the first day. And you go, oh, Chris, come on now. Now, maybe that's a little extreme, I don't know. But do you see the point? What good are the steps if they're just hanging on some strange wall somewhere? They're not going to do anything for you. Yeah, they'll sound good, occasional meeting, you talk about them. I'm good at talking. Did that my whole life. Like my dad, I'm full of you-know-what. Right? I inherited that from him also, right? Only we didn't have Google back then, so I couldn't check him. He was good, though. He seemed to know the answer to everything. And I don't know. We went through the steps, got started with amends, scared to death. Started to kind of feel something different for the first time, as if maybe I'm going to be all right. I hadn't had that thought in many a year. And kept plugging with the work. And I don't know, not long later, a couple months later, I'm out at dinner, and I run into an old client from Wall Street, and I was drilled into me. Stop pretending you're not sober. You know, like when I'm in front of a judge. Have you ever been convicted? Your Honor, did you say accused or convicted? Like I can't hear or read anymore. Like, right? You represent AA. So I went up to him, I said, Tommy, he was good. We were friends, big hug. I said, I'm in AA, I'm good. If you don't hire me, that's fine. I gave him a big book. That's what I was taught to do. I said, don't worry about me, man. I'm doing fine. I'm going to find work, but I'd like to come back. If you're the guy... I said, I ain't got a lot of leverage right now. He laughed. I said, so maybe I'm your guy. I don't know. But here's how I'm trying to live. I don't know if I can pull it off. You know, take the book, read it, take it with you. Didn't hear from him. A number of months go by. All of a sudden, I get a strange phone call one night. He says, I'd like to meet with you again at a local restaurant. And he said, I would like you to bring that amends list they talk about in that book you gave me. It's like the people in AA don't even read that. What the hell are you doing? Right? And he was serious. And he was on there. I was scared to death. He was kind of one of my mentors, so I figured he's going to give me the lecture, the talk. I'm used to the talk. People up there looking down. Usually people in uniform. Some kind of authority, I can take it. I deserve it. I mean, I'm a big boy, right? And I was ready for the talk, and I'm scared to death like a little kid. I'll never forget it. I hand the paper over, and all of a sudden I realize he ain't lecturing. He's tearing up. Chris, anybody on here over 10 grand, I'll pay for you. I don't want you looking over your shoulder if you work for me. Can you start tomorrow? That's how blown away he was by the big book. By AA. Never joined AA. We laughed over the years. Maybe could have used it. That's for him to decide. Right? And right? And he goes, and I want you to go to Boca Raton to a conference in a couple of weeks and represent my firm. It wasn't me, right? That was something that came through that book to him. I don't know what it was, but I think I do know what it was. Because it wasn't written just for alcoholics and drug addicts, as you know. The book says, share this, get on the mountaintop and scream it if you want to. You don't have to, but it wouldn't hurt, right? What good is knowing this if I don't give it to you? What am I practicing? I'm keeping it? It don't work that way, does it, right? Spirituality is a weird thing, right? If you don't give it away, it will disappear, right? Faith without works is dead and all that. Bill and Bob were really, I don't know how, but hip to that. Whether it was through Shoemaker and the Oxford groups, whatever, but they were really painfully aware of some biblical stuff that really came into play with the 12-step writing. And it's important. It's important to learn, right? And it ain't going to do you no good just hanging on a wall and treating it like theoretical little exercises. Yeah, they might make you feel better and get you through a rough spot, but it's not. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage. It's going to explode eventually. You know it and I know it, right? So I don't do that. It doesn't always make me the most popular kid at the dance. Although maybe that was years ago. I'm pretty docile these days. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We study the book. You want to study it, we'll teach you. If you don't, I get it. Doesn't make you less of an AA member. That's the beauty of AA, right? You can do whatever you want. But if you want the gold, the platinum package, peace, contentment, fourth dimension, all that kind of stuff, then you got to go through the steps. If you just want to be sober, just go to AA and literally you might stay sober the rest of your life. But interestingly enough, sobriety, according to the big book, isn't even the goal of all this. It don't even say it anywhere. I know in the preamble it says stay sober and help others. But the whole book after that says, yeah, there's really no such thing as staying sober. That's a misnomer. You either stay spiritual and you are sober. Because if you could stay sober without spirituality, why would you need spirituality? Why would you need the steps? Why would you need God? You wouldn't need any of that, right? So sobriety is not our goal. It's conscious contact. And then passing that on to somebody else. It's hidden right there in step 11, right? Improve our conscious contact, right? I feel something. I call it God. Call it whatever you want. I grew up Catholic. Sometimes it mirrors that, not always. Over the years, spiritually, I feel like a free agent. I've read I'm not a reader. One of my biggest regrets in life. My dad killed him, right? He hated it. Because he was old school. He loved to read. I don't know why. I'm just another form of my laziness. I just will not read. I don't know that I actually read a whole book by the time I was 33 years old and in rehab. That's sad. I think I read a sports book once. I can tell you batting averages from 30 years ago. But, to read a book and get better, no, I just, right? And I had to pray for the willingness to read, and I became an avid reader, and I love it. I've been reading for years. I don't make that mistake anymore. I call that proper use of technology. There's an old spiritual saying, guard your portals, right? I would say guard all your portals, kids, but especially your eyes and ears. What you let in is your responsibility. I never thought about that. Well, I work hard. I like watching, trash TV. Go ahead, but your mind's melting. We all know it. I mean, come on. Turn the TV on. You kidding me? Are we getting smarter or better? I don't think so. We're pretty much at zero, right? I don't know what to tell you, but you control what you let in, what you read, what you listen to. You don't have to do it. I don't do it hardly ever anymore. I love it. But it took some work. And my wife and I are on the same page with that. We will not watch TV. Just won't do it. Watch a YouTube video. Big Saturday night for us. I'm watching like a YouTube video from 1934 from some minister somewhere. Like, whoa, honey, get the popcorn. Whoa. Like, that does it for me now. That's weird. It says in the big book, ideas, attitudes, emotions, which were once the guiding force of our lives, are suddenly cast to one side, and a whole new set of them take over. That's what has to happen to you. It ain't that hard. You give yourself to something greater, you follow the steps, you start making amends, you use the prayers, you understand about defects, you stay on top of that game, and then it all turns into a life of three things. Self-examination. Sounds complicated, doesn't it? Step 10, self-examination. As it turns out, I'm pretty good at examining you. I can spot a defect in you a mile. I spotted a few tonight. I haven't seen a few guys in a while. I noticed a few things about you. All through drinking, drug addiction, my spotter has been razor sharp. Turn that inward. Wow. Never thought of that. Self-examination, prayer and meditation. Now that you're claiming to getting spiritual, you got to grow with it. Grow, continue. It's an Oxford Group word, continuance, right? What good is learning all this spirituality? You got to wake up tomorrow. What do you think? Spirituality rolls into the next day, right? I don't wake up and look outside and go, wow, honey, isn't it beautiful? I can't wait to serve people. Sometimes I look out the window and go, it's cloudy. And that's already a deal breaker for me, right? I don't do rain well, right? I just don't. Right? I can have a minor meltdown before I even get out of the house for work. God forbid I'm in front of the mirror shaving or whatever. She better not say anything to me wrong. You're like that too. Everybody is, as it turns out. Even normal people. We all suffer from this monster they call self, right? It's just fighting the proper enemy. Instead of fighting drugs and alcohol, you fight what is referred to as the battle of self. Always turning it inward. Everything, I used to call it the Kurt Cobain method of recovery. Everything's my fault. Because if it's not your fault, then I'm in trouble. You own me. And as it turns out, it is my fault because either I did it, or if you did it and I'm not forgiving you and I ain't got the right attitude, it's still my fault. So no matter what happens, it really is my fault. Are you kidding me? But that's beautiful. What a way to live. I'm untouchable most days when I live like that and remember that. Problem is, I don't remember that always. I don't stay in that state of mind. I fall back, I drift back to the worldly level quite often. So will you. Sandy Beach used to always say, the trick is, son, when you drift down to the human level, don't look around. You won't like what you see. You'll notice stuff, especially other people's behavior and driving habits, things of that nature, right? I'm right back. All he says, Sandy used to say, all you got to do when you get like that, and you will, time out. Use your timeouts, walk away, right? There's a formula in the book, believe it or not. I remember that years ago, this guy could still see his face. Wouldn't it be great in the book if it just said, do this, and you'll be okay? And we're like, it does. Step 10 gives you a formula. When they crop up, they is the defects. Pride, anger, lust, greed, to name a few. What are they, my defects? They're yours too. Any human can trip over these at any time. My job is to put names on them and get in the game. Jealousy, right? There's many, right? When they crop up, ask God to remove it. First things first. Go to God first. Otherwise, you're back out of order. Well, I don't believe in God. Well, talk to somebody about that. This 12 steps ain't going to work very much for you. We have to address that. Don't worry about it. You're probably just mad at God. We can get you past that. Right? And you know the whole chapter, we agnostics, choosing your own... Look, they basically front us, God, in AA. Because they know this ain't going to go over. They wrote a whole chapter just like, nah, don't worry, it's cool. Don't worry about it, man. Whatever. Because they know it's going to change if you follow through with the work. So they weren't real concerned on what I think. My whole life I'm concerned about what I think. That's the problem. Oh my. Right? I shouldn't even have an opinion on most things. The hardest thing to do helping guys is keep my opinion to myself and follow the rules, right? Makes it very simple. Prayer and meditation, right? That's the principal means of contact with our mothership. And then finally, the big one, right? It all boils into a life of what they call service, right? You got to give it away to keep it and all that. Some even say you got to give it away to get it, right? I did not understand any of this until I started sponsoring others, teaching them, if you will, for lack of a better word. I was forced into it, and that's the trick. Some men understood that if they could just push me, just don't tell them, just push him. It's almost like putting you into like a substitute teacher role real quick next week. Whatever, maybe your kid's school, doesn't matter where, right? But you're there, here's the subject, because guess what? When all of a sudden you put me in the teacher's role, I go from being upset, nervous to, oh my God, I better study. I've had guys over the years, Bobby knows one well, he used to call me all the time, and most guys knew in recovery, it was either finances or love life, and they would tell me of their problem of the day. But I didn't even do it on purpose. I remember shortly into this one guy years ago, I said, I'm a little busy. Do you mind if I have somebody call you? And I didn't see this till after the fact. And he's like, yeah. And he never called again with the money or sex or relationship problems. You know what the next phone call was? And up until this day, 30 years later, Chris, where's that prayer you were talking about? Where's those sheets? What's that? I'm like, oh my God. All of a sudden now you're hungry for knowledge. You're a thespian, right? You can't do that for you. You won't do that for you. But you can do it for others. Nobody can help themselves is the theory. If you can, why would you need this? But you can help others. And if you would just focus on that, you would finally get in return the help you've been looking for. I swear to you it works that way. I know maybe you've heard that before, but you don't really believe it. And you're never going to believe it until you meet these requirements, complete these steps, get started with amends. And as you get started, it may take a while, may take years to finish all your old amends, pay back all the money or whatever. But after you get started, get a couple under your belt, you move on to 10, 11, and 12. See, because the first 9 steps are finite. They have a beginning and an end, you could argue. But the last 3 are infinite, every day for the rest of your life. Self-examination, prayer and meditation, service to others. That's all I know. I don't really have many major plans in life, right? My wife, even to this day, we joke about it. She's like, well, what are we going to do about this? I'm like, I don't know, hon, if you ain't been paying attention. I ain't got no big plan here. I'm just kind of hoping it all works out. You know what I mean? I go to work, et cetera, et cetera. I am afraid to plan because it was drilled into me, if I got plans and you got plans and there's a greater plan, what are the odds that they're the same plan? My sponsor would say, could you be blocking it? Could it be you, Chris? Is it ever you? Right? No, it's never me. I've been blocking the divine plan my whole life. I understand that clearly today. And so do you. But you got to take these actions to really break yourself free of that. And to really take it from up here to down here, right? Head knowledge to heart knowledge, as they say. Right? It really is cool. It's great. It's as Bill says, it's an experience you don't want to miss, right? So if anybody is new or, struggling, I know on some levels I'm probably preaching to the choir up here. I'm sure you have a number of book studies available to you. Now with the new Zoom phenomenon, which I would have laughed at and mocked a couple years ago, I'm an old dude, so I'm like not the first technology guy. I'm still like when I type like that, by the way, one finger. When I go on, I'm still afraid I'm going to break the internet, right, if I hit the wrong button. But you get the point, right? That virtual format, especially for book studies, I think is beautiful. We do one every Tuesday night, if anybody's interested, 7 p.m. Eastern. Been doing it for a few years now. I love it. It's a whole new dynamic in Alcoholics Anonymous. In the old days, if you got out of rehab in Doylestown, you'd have to find a local meeting, which is a little embarrassing to begin with. Nobody wants to walk into that, right? And et cetera, right? Now, you go online, with the Zoom, you don't ever have to get out of your boxer shorts again, theoretically, the rest of your life. Just live in your bedroom, and you can go in there and get a sponsor from Australia. I mean, I'm on there, and there's kids all ages from all over the country, all over the world, that know this big book inside out. It blows my mind. I wasn't expecting that. And it's reinvigorated the whole AA experience again for me. I love it. I can't explain it to you. It's on the list of 88 books that changed the world a number of years ago from the Library of Congress, the AA book, right? And if you're a younger whippersnapper and maybe I should go to another fellowship, I'm not saying not to. Compare them all. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Find out for yourself, right? But all 12-step fellowships came from AA. NA, CA, whatever A, AAA even, I think. I got to call them, but I think there was like a tow truck dude that had some trouble. I think you get the point, right? They all came from the big book. And the big book, the first thing called Alcoholics Anonymous in the world wasn't a meeting. It was that book. So when you say AA to me, it's not a bunch of people in a nice church basement, not that we're in a basement, whining, although that's the picture some get. And it's kind of partly that. We whine nicely, but you get it. But it's a philosophy before that of self-examination and prayer and meditation and service to others and requirements to be met. And then a couple years later, really, they took their name from their own book, which means NA did, CA, HA, A, whatever A, it all came from the big book. So forget about your drug of choice or any of that crap and learn the book. It is the granddaddy of all 12-step programs. As far as I can tell, it's the only book in the world with the directions to take the 12 steps. Now, I know it gets a little tricky. There is a common book, which we love, called the 12 and 12, but they are essays on the 12 steps 15 years later. Sounds harmless. Interestingly enough, there's been step meetings in AA for 50, 60 years, right? But they use the book that don't even have the directions. They read the essays, which sounds good. I mean, it's great language. King alcohol, the rapacious creditor. I don't even really know what rapacious means, but I feel like I sound smart saying it, right? What you can't get sober on an essay. It would be like giving me a book on space travel. I'll have you convinced I'm an astronaut in a couple weeks and sharing on it, and you'll be clapping for me. But I'm dying inside because the experience is hollow. So it's just my opinion on that. Take it for what it is. Use the directions. Have the experience before you start dwelling too much on essays on them, right? What good is reading an essay on an experience you haven't had? It will ring hollow, won't it? And that's probably why maybe you're sitting around going, I don't know why I'm not feeling this. I mean, it sounds good, but maybe that's what I'm fucking feeling. Sorry, I'm feeling it, right? I did not mean that. I apologize. 30 years into it, I feel it more than ever. And you can too. I want you to feel it. Get in the game. Go to some big book studies. Break through that wall of people that don't understand this stuff. They're not trying to hurt you. Everybody knows what they know. But how come our founders could do it all immediately? Bill took most of the steps Lane and Detox on page 13. Dr. Bob, we already went over that one day. What happened? What happened? I think I see clearly. It went from a spiritual program of action to a not drinking fellowship, which is nice, but that's never designed to keep you in those dark days up here when the bills are due, and health problems and financial stuff and relationship stuff. You think just going to meetings is going to get you through that? I mean, I hope it does, but that scares me. But you don't have to roll those dice. You take these steps, the book guarantees you. It says it will always happen if you do the work. That's 100% guarantee, right? I've never seen anybody in 30 years that was working the steps out of the book, the big book, that ever drank or got high while they were doing that. Now they, a lot of times, oh, like my cousin. I didn't say people don't relapse. But you ask them and they will tell you, no, I was not doing that. No, I never learned that. No, I was not using that prayer. I never learned to do a nightly inventory. I really don't know what that morning meditation, right? They will be honest with you. I wasn't. So I've never seen anybody in 30 years where that's failed. And I don't think it's going to fail you. Thank you very much for putting up with me.
Let's thank Chris one more time for an excellent talk. Just a reminder, the Food and Fellowship always starts at 8 o'clock, and we always have opportunities for service here. If you want to be interested in this group, come see us after the meeting or come early and join us. We could always use more home group members and more services available. It's customary to form a line, so we form a line here in the front and thank our speaker. They come here at their own time and expense, so we'll do that afterwards. We can do some help cleaning up. We'll put all the chairs on the rack and some around the tables back there if possible. And if you care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing. And we circle up. We'll circle up.